Mr. Jakes, I appreciate your pragmatic perspective on the need for the PBO to exercise discretion in all its dealings in its role serving parliamentarians and serving us well. I also appreciate your earlier comments today where you spoke to the independent and nonpartisan role of your office. I'm recalling at your first appearance at our committee that you testified to the alarming reality that anyone could have been appointed to the interim position. You had just been appointed, and you provided us with that testimony. You provided us with, just, I guess, something to think about when it came to the fact that there was a lack of requirements, including the need for the individual to even be a Canadian citizen, have management experience, or even a requirement that they be bilingual. And that is not something that we've lost sight of. And so I believe there needs to be a PBO appointed to a full-time position who is vetted by parliamentarians, who can be free to do the nonpartisan work of bringing transparency and accountability to the government's finances. And so for this reason, I would like to move the motion that I put on notice. I know that the matter is at hand right now, and so if I could, I would like to read the motion into the record.
This is the one that was sent out this morning?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead, please.
That the Standing Committee on Government Operations and Estimates recommend that the Prime Minister's Office and Privy Council Office submit to the committee a short list of candidates for the permanent parliamentary budget officer position, that the committee conduct interviews with the shortlisted candidates as part of the consultation process specified in the Parliament of Canada Act, and that, unless otherwise decided by unanimous consent of the House of Commons, an appointment to the position of parliamentary budget officer shall be made only if the nominee has been selected by the unanimous agreement of the Standing Committee on Government Operations and Estimates, which includes members from each recognized party in the House, and that the House be so informed by way of a report from this committee. Thank you.
Did you wish to speak on this, or I'll start a speaking order?
You go ahead. I've already provided
I'll take a speaking list. I have Ms. Gaudreau and then Ms. Khalid.
I'm just wondering if we could quickly caucus amongst ourselves for like 2 minutes before...
J'aimerais vraiment qu'on prenne...
I would appreciate it if we can have 2 minutes to read this motion, and I'm the first person on the list, and I think that I have a sub-amendment.
Quick 2 or 3 minute suspension was sent out this morning, but I understand people require a few more minutes. So why don't we do that? 2 or 3 minutes, we're suspended.
Grant leave to be with us.
Speaking list, we have Ms. Gaudreau, then Ms. Khalid.
Oui. Merci beaucoup, monsieur.
Thank you very much, Chair. So thank you for the time that you've given us so that we could be ready. It reflects true transparency and democracy, and I welcome my colleague's motion because it's so important that the choice of a parliamentary budget officer be neutral and unbiased, impartial. So it's not somebody who's just appointed. And with the greatest respect due Mr. Jacques, even though he had 18 years of experience, there is an appropriate, legitimate process that we should adopt as parliamentarians. So Ms. Bloch's proposal is really legitimate. If the PBO is chosen as in relation to other potential candidates, but Mr. Chair, I would like to file a sub-amendment to ensure that we can have a complete process, and I will read it to you in French, but you probably already have it in your email. I would like to amend that pursuant to Standing Order 108C, the Standing Government on Government Operations and Estimates mandate its subcommittee to consider nominations for the position of Parliamentary Budget Officer, that the usual rules of procedure used by the committee apply to the sub-amendment, including the routine rules adopted. So recommend that the Council submit to the committee a short list of candidates within 2 weeks as part of the consultation process specifies in the Parliament of Canada Act, that the sub-amendment go ahead in camera and proceed to have interviews with the pre-selected candidates in the context of the Parliament of Canada Act, consultation process in the Parliament Act, and that unless otherwise decided by unanimous consent of the House of Commons, an appointment to the position of Parliamentary Budget Officer shall be made only if the nominee has been selected by the unanimous agreement of the Standing Subcommittee of the Standing Committee on Government Operations and Estimates, which includes members from each recognized party in the House, and that the House be so informed by way of a report from this committee, period. Well, it's explicit. It's important that the use of the House's usual rules, that's why we talk about Article 108, or Standing Order 1081, and then later that's why, well, Chair, seriously, the essence of the motion is more than relevant. What has been added, it's after some verification we did to ensure conformity, legitimacy, and I'm waiting for your questions and comments.
Ms. Khalid on the amendment? And then
Sorry, Chair. I wasn't sure. I didn't want to interrupt Ms. Goudreau, but I did want to ask if you had ruled on the admissibility, whether the main motion is in order or not.
I believe it is.
Can we ask the analysts? And because from my understanding,
it's not the analyst;
Okay.
it's the chair that
Okay,
rules, and I
so-
believe it is admissible,
so
both from a matter of hand motion or issue and.
if I may, so when a motion directly contradicts the Parliamentary
I'm going to
Act,
interrupt I don't believe it contradicts the Parliamentary Act. You're welcome to challenge the chair, but I believe it is.
okay, in that case, then I do challenge your ruling, Chair.
Okay, we'll go to a vote on, this is on the original amendment. Or, sorry, this is the original motion. The original motion, sorry. Yeah, we're a bit,
S'il vous plaît,
it is a
l'interprétation.
bit late to be.
So,
J'ai
please, I need to have a good interpretation. I didn't get it. My mic is open, so I couldn't hear. I would like you to repeat the 4 last sentences about what we're going to vote.
It's turning itself off after we suspend, so I'm not sure, and it only happens intermittently, it seems. We're actually discussing your amendment right now. Ms. Khalid was asking about whether the original motion was in order, although we are late on ruling on that. I'm happy to address it. I believe it is in order both from a hand motion being put forward, but I believe the motion is in order itself. Ms. Khalid is challenging that ruling that the motion is in order. So we're now going to vote on challenging my decision that it is in order.
So we're voting to sustain the chair.
On the original motion, yes.
If we want to sustain, we vote yes, correct? Sorry.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, just, I don't want any mess ups.
If we like his ruling, we vote yes.
We'll now go to the clerk who'll do a vote. Then we will return to the proper way. We'll get to the sub-amendment, or to the amendment, I apologize.
Mr. Gasparro?
No.
Ms. Khalid?
No.
Madame Rochefort?
No.
Mr. Bardisi?
No.
Ms. Bloch?
Absolutely.
Ms. Jensen?
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence?
Yes.
Et Madame Gaudreau?
Oui.
Okay, so yeas pour 4, 4, and nays contre 4, 4.
I'll vote in favor of myself.
Okay.
I will now go
Well-
to,
Yeah, when it's equal for that question, your ruling is automatically sustained.
I know, I'm just teasing. We're now at the amendment that Ms. Goudreau has brought forward. We'll now start a speaking list on that amendment. Are you putting your name forward for the speaking? We'll have Ms. Khalid, and then if anyone else wishes to speak on the amendment, then Ms. Rochefort. Ms. Khalid, go ahead.
Thanks, Chair.
On the amendment.
On the amendment, just wondering if the text of that has been circulated to my email?
It has.
Thank you. In that case, then, while I read it, I'll pass it on back to you while I...
Ms. Rochefort, please. And, sorry, let me interrupt quickly. I've mentioned this before. I mentioned the past Parliament. I've mentioned it earlier today. I have a speaking list. I will advise who's speaking and who's next. I'm not going to treat you like children and remind you that you have to put your hands up to speak. If you don't put yourself on, that is your responsibility. Then we will consider the debate finished. But I will note who's speaking and who is speaking next each time. I'll give you that much. Ms. Rochefort.
Chairman, I would love to see the complete.
It's been emailed.
Okay, so I haven't yet been able to see it, but nonetheless, I'd like to come back to the fact that there is a process that's part of the Parliament of Canada Act, and I would simply like to read it. It does say that the Governor in Council shall, by commission under the Great Seal, appoint a parliamentary budget officer after consultation with the following persons and after approval of the appointment by resolution of the Senate and the House of Commons. A, the leader of the government in the Senate or government representative in the Senate, the leader of the opposition in the Senate, and the leader or facilitator of every other recognized party or parliamentary group in the Senate. And B, the leader of every recognized party in the House of Commons. So there is participation by all of the parties in the nomination process. And then it talks about the experience and the expertise. The parliamentary budget officer shall have demonstrated experience and expertise in federal and provincial budgeting, and I think that's what Madame Gaudreau was referring to. It does mention that the parliamentary budget officer holds office during good behavior for a term of 7 years, but may be removed for cause by the Governor in Council on address of the Senate and the House of Commons. But it also speaks about reappointment, and the parliamentary budget officer may be reappointed for one or more terms of up to 7 years each. However, the parliamentary budget officer shall serve no more than 14 years in office in total. Then it specifies that in the event of the absence or incapacity of the parliamentary budget officer, or if that office is vacant, the Governor in Council may appoint any person to hold that office in the interim for a term not exceeding 6 months. And that person shall, while holding office, be paid the remuneration and expenses that may be fixed by the Governor in Council. The parliamentary budget officer shall be paid the remuneration and expenses fixed by the Governor in Council. And so, Mr. President, I was just wondering, how do we reconcile the fact that we do have a Parliament of Government Canada Act on this appointment, for this appointment? How can we be moving a motion, an amended motion in addition to that, that is not in keeping with the current approved Parliament of Canada Act, I guess. Pardon me. Sorry. Yes. So would you be able to respond, to explain to me why?
I'm not part of the debate. If this is the debate on the amendment, I've ruled it has been upheld by the committee. We're debating the amendment, and I would ask that you get to the amendment, or we'll move on to Mr. Bardisi.
So this is just proof of the fact that there was.
Okay, that's fine, but you're not debating me, Ms. Rochford.
Sorry,
you're not asking. Excuse me,
point
Ms.
of
Khalid,
clarification,
let
Chair.
me finish
Please go ahead.
my conversation. We are debating the amendment to the original motion. You're welcome to continue debating the amendment and getting back to the topic of the amendment, but this is the debate at hand right now. If you're done your intervention, we can go to Mr. Bardisi, but this is not a Q&A session between the two of us. Ms. Khalid challenged my ruling. It was upheld by the committee, so now we're back to the amendment.
So I'm simply asking, how can I be debating an amended motion that is not in keeping with the current acts of the government?
If you're done debating the amendment, we will go on to Mr. Bardisi. Do you have a point of order?
You can just add me to the list,
Okay.
Chair.
I think we're going on to Mr. Bardisi now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I'm going to be very clear
yeah.
on the amendment. We're not going to go to reading from Parliament of Canada Act anymore. We want to stick to the amendment at hand. I saw a lot of hands about to come up and yell relevance previously, and I saw they were patient with it. But let's get to the amendment, please. Thanks, sir.
Merci bien. J'apprécie l'amendement.
Thank you. And I appreciate the amendment from Madame Gaudreau, my colleague. And I think I have the meaning of the amendment, the essence of the amendment in front of my eyes. But if I make an error and I start discussing the motion itself, I apologize. To my mind, the amendment is interesting. It gets very involved in terms of the processes of the offices of the cabinet that I haven't seen as a MP yet. I've been here for 6 months. That there's very specific advice concerning the process referred to in the primary motion.
Back to your last intervention. So I'm going to excuse our witnesses. Thank you, as always, for being with us today. We sincerely appreciate it. Hopefully we'll see you back for the supplementary Bs, if we can get that in before we rise for Christmas. Thanks very much again for your time. Mr. Bardisi, I apologize. We'll go back to you, sir. I'm glad you got to see all this live. And
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Merci, Monsieur le Président. Alors,
thank you, Chair. So, on the topic of the amendment, as I said, there are very specific instructions given to the Cabinet and to the Privy Council office by this committee, and that concerns me, the fact that it's more specific than necessary, possibly. And in a broader sense, that my colleague, Ms. Rochefort, did read the relevant article in the Parliament of Canada Act, and I have seen that there's no role for the Senate in this amendment. We have a bicameral system in the country, and the role of the played by the Senate is very important, and it's in the Act, and it's an amendment that does not make reference about maybe correcting a primary motion, which might have a role for the Senate. So I know I'm newly arrived to this committee, but I know that there are other committees that are concerned about this position, and I don't know if the other committees have their own advice in terms of getting involved in the it's maybe implied in the spirit of the motion to have advice that comes from MPs and committees. But as I've said, there are other committees concerned about this position. We had Mr. Jakes and some of his colleagues at my committee where I sit, which is the industry committee, so I wanted to note this. And thirdly, I have noted this addition in the sub-amendment in Madame Gaudreau, who wishes us to proceed in camera, and I know that there are processes that are very intentional in the choice of representative of officers of Parliament. And I would like to know if her advice in this amendment aligns itself with processes for other officers of Parliament. So I appreciate the amendment of my colleague, Ms. Gaudreau, but I just wanted to add these 3 points, to present these 3 points to the committee for debate.
Gasparo.
Oui, bon, ben, je vais pouvoir.
Good. So I was waiting to have some questions. It's fascinating. So my main concern, Chair, is that we're not here to modify internal processes. We're here to avoid the possibility of having no transparency and no bias. So this proposal is an enhancement. If you read it as I do, and unless there's a contrary decision made by unanimous consent at the House of Commons, it means that the process ultimately is that will mean that we have recommendations and they will do what they want with them. But you and I will have gone through a legitimate process for hiring. You've all done this in your lives, to say, here is the person who would be able to offer the services that we need, and we recommend it to the House of Commons. And that's where things happen. Instead of having like an interim officer and whose term ends in March, I think that if we all have unanimity, it will show that we don't want to have a privilege or we don't want it hidden. It's an opportunity to say that we're just enhancing, improving a process. We don't want to go against the rules of procedure. They can say, well, we don't accept your recommendation, your recommended candidate, and we don't change the 7 years, et cetera, et cetera. So it can only be positive. And I also understood that if we do a job with impartiality, our PBO isn't with us, it's important to know that we weren't just chosen on the fly, but we were chosen as a result of a legitimate hiring process. So I think that's why it's important.
Sparrow and then Ms. Khalid.
Just going back to the some of the comments that were made, and they are thoughtful, which we always expect from you, of course. There is already consultation built into the act. Do you mind if I just see that for a second? No, I'm not. Don't worry, I'm not going to reread it because clearly you didn't read it the first time. So why read it again? So
sorry, let me interrupt here. It's Mr. Gasparo has the floor, so we don't want comments from one side, but the comments the others came back were not appreciated. Let's just stick to our points.
There are already consultations built into the Parliament of Canada Act, and it talks about it. It's very clear, and I won't read it again, but it does mention the Leader of the Opposition. It does mention the Senate. So that is already built into this act, which supersedes us. So that's sort of point one. And I've talked about this before at this committee, and that is, what precedent does this set for not only our government but future governments? And are we going to open up a Pandora's box where maybe future governments have to deal with all sorts of other committees, then saying, okay, well, we need to have our 2 cents on some appointment, or maybe even this very appointment itself. And if we're trying to streamline how government works, I think we can all agree that we are trying to move more quickly around this place. I've only been here 6 months, like my colleague and my colleagues. So seeing how the process of how things work here and how slow it is, I'm sure some of you pulled out your hair when you first got here as well. So we're all trying to move more quickly. This actually does the opposite. So I would just encourage maybe a slight change in this, and that we look towards what the impact and the precedent we are setting here by considering this motion.
Great. We'll go to Ms. Khalid and then Ms. Block, but I'm going to ask everyone to please stick to the amendment. Trying not to interrupt, but we'll stick to the amendment. A lot of this is the original motion we seem to be discussing, but if we can stick to the amendment, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just before I begin my remarks, how long do we have this room for today?
Till 2 p.m.
Wonderful. I have a flight to catch. I'd like to be home with my family, but anywho's, I'm more than happy to talk about this really important amendment. And Chair, I do want to clarify. I know that you've said that the amendment and the main motion are 2 separate things, but I think that ultimately is talking about the same, as in it's trying to create a procedure, and as Marie-Hélène, Madame Goudreau has argued, that this procedure is to increase transparency, perhaps, in the House. I want to echo, first off, a couple of the comments that have been made by my colleagues, and I know that I had tried to seek clarification from yourself and the table, but alas, it was considered to be part of the debate. I do want to know, and I will be looking into this on my own time, Mr. Chair, how does Section 79 of the Act work with this motion? And when we're talking about specifically creating a procedure as to how the selection of a public officer is made, not only do we want to analyze to see what the long-term implications of this would be, how it would impact other standing committees. I'll give an example. I know that the appointment of a Supreme Court justice has a component of Parliament where parliamentarians on the Justice Committee, both in Parliament and in Senate, have the ability to question the nominee by the Governing Council. So, and that's a whole process that's been established. So I'm not sure when we talk about creating this process of a subcommittee, and then the subcommittee, as the amendments outlines, that basically there needs to be unanimous consent for a name to be put forward. Now, what happens then? This is again, like I'm speculating and contemplating the implications of this amendment and of the motion. What happens if the government says, thank you so very much, but nope, we're not moving forward with what your recommendation is? what happens at that point. And this is not something that's contemplated in this motion at all. And I'm not sure if we have the powers to be able to make those kind of amendments. I mean, I 100% agree with the role of this committee to provide oversight, to provide transparency, and to make sure that a PBO is responsible for Parliament and not for government, as Mr. Jakes made very clear today. So I do want to analyze a little bit of that intersection between what the Parliament Act currently says about the appointment of a PBO, and then what we are suggesting through this amendment and through the main motion here in this committee, I guess in terms of is it going to be a complementary piece, or is it a replacement piece? How does the law interact with that? I'm not sure if any of our folks want to help answer some of these legal questions, but I do believe that this motion and the amendment is a little bit rushed because we're not fully contemplating the outcomes of this motion at all. So, you know, and I really appreciate that Ms. Goudreau has gone on to say that, you know, the subcommittee of this committee would be the body that would conduct interviews with the candidates, and then would meet in camera and review the applications and then shortlisted candidates provided within 2 weeks by the Prime Minister's office as part of the consultation process. So I think there's a lot that is going on in here. Who proposes these names? Is it open for applications, or is it members are now going to come forward and say, okay, these are the people that we want to interview? Or is there an application process, or is there you know, a recommendation process where, you know, say opposition leaders propose names or our party whips propose names? I think there's a lot of vagueness and unnecessary specificity as well, in that it doesn't quite correlate with what the Act and the intention of the Act is in Section 79. So I think I would propose that instead of kind of jumping into this and making a decision today, I would like to take some time to really analyze what the full implications are, not just in parliamentary procedure, but also in the outcomes of and the precedents that we would be setting for other committees and other processes as well that are contemplated in the Act, and other pieces of legislation and regulations within our Parliament. So it's a long shot. But I will try it. It is my birthday, but...
Are we talking about the amendment, or...?
Yes, we're talking about... Oh, sorry. Please go ahead, Chair.
I'll rule on the point of order. You haven't been referencing the agenda or the amendment at all. I think we should dispose of the amendment first before we get to the motion. The original motion, I would ask that you do stick specifically to the amendment, which I know we always give broad... allow a lot of space to discuss things, but you haven't addressed the issues of the amendment as such. I'd ask you to bring back to it.
Sure.
But you
absolutely.
I'll allow you to continue your thought. We cut you off at, it is your birthday, so go ahead.
You know what, maybe I'll finish the other thought before I come to that one. So that's exactly the point I was trying to make, Mr. Chair, is that the amendment and the main motion are both trying to...
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt. We are debating the amendment.
So sure. Let me then go word by word on what the amendment is proposing to change in the main motion. So I have, I think, Mr. Clerk, he sent the stuff that is highlighted in blue is what is contemplated to be amended, right? Okay. So the amendment contemplates and proposes that the subcommittee of the Standing Committee on OGO, the mighty OGO, creates and meets in camera to review the applications if necessary, and it sets a timeline on on the Prime Minister's office. So what the point that I'm trying to make is, if I'm only talking about these amendments here, but also I can't talk about these amendments without contemplating exactly what it is these amendments are trying to do to the main motion. And ultimately, they're trying to create a process by which a PBO officer is selected.
It's just, we're trying to work with the amendment. And then we can go back and you can use those points when we're back to the main motion, correct?
But just, allow it to just continue, but please, let's stick to
Chair, but that's exactly the point that I'm trying
to finish.
How,
We
okay,
always allow
sure.
wide breath, but please,
Yeah.
let's get to the amendment. Not necessarily how the amendment and the motion go together, but the amendment. Go ahead, please.
Chair, I don't think that these amendments fully contemplate or fully achieve what Ms. Goodrow is trying to achieve here in creating more specific, I guess, rules that are being proposed here today. So I don't think that this is quite accurate. It's not; these amendments are not achieving the results that are being contemplated by this committee and by these amendments. I would again say that I would like to have a little bit more time to analyze these amendments and how they play with the main motion, and how all of that interacts with the Parliament Act. So now I will go back to the other point that I was about to make. Mr. Chair, I know that I'm always a glutton for punishment. I love this committee, but it is my birthday, and I hope that if I move a motion to adjourn that we could today, I just and come back to this with a little bit more information. So at this point, Mr. Chair, I do move to adjourn this meeting.
We'll do a quick vote before we do. I will note we've had the heat turned up. It's taking a bit of time to warm up the room. A lot of us have been. We'll go over to the clerk for the vote.
Sparrow? Yes. Ms. Khalid? Yes. Madame Rochefort?
Oui.
Mr. Bardesi?
Yes.
Ms. Bloch?
No.
Ms. Jensen?
No.
Monsieur Gourde?
No.
Et Madame Gaudreau?
No.
And?
No.
No? Okay.
Okay. I have Ms. Bloch, Mr. Goudreau, then Ms. Rochefort. Go ahead, please, Madame Bloch.
Chair, and speaking to the amendment that has been put forward by Ms. Goudreau. Speaking to the sub-amendment put forward by Ms. Goudreau, as the mover of this motion, I see it as a friendly amendment. I understand the reasons that she is wanting to have the subcommittee undertake the consultation process, which we do understand is part of a process that is outlined in the Parliament of Canada Act, and we're simply asking to be a part of that process, recognizing that perhaps it would be a bit more streamlined and important to do that work in camera with a smaller group of people who represent all parties on this committee. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Ms. Goudreau, then Ms. Rochefort. Oh, sorry. Mr. Gourde, then Ms. Goudreau.
Okay.
Sorry, then Ms. Rochefort. Oh, man, ooh.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Ça me fait plaisir de me joindre.
Thank you, Chair. I'm very happy to join OGO today. And I find that the sub-amendment requires a lot of attention because it would allow all parties to participate in the choice of the coming PBO. And we wouldn't be in the situation that we're in now because the interim PBO does a really good job, and he would deserve to have the job. I don't understand why the government did not appoint them. He knows everything that happens, but I think it was indicated that his days are counted, which is really unfortunate because we'll lose a lot of experience. That being said, well, now there are some people talking. Maybe we'll just wait. That being said, to be able to allow this committee to have a limited list, we won't name the person, but Ms. Gaudreau could tell me if a list of 6 possible candidates, we didn't specify the number, if the subcommittee could look at the capacities of these people, the experience, their competencies, and maybe see them. That's done for appointments elsewhere. It's not a precedent. To the contrary of what I believe I heard here, it exists in other places where parliamentarians participate to create a short list, maybe to go from 6 to 3 candidates, and the best of cases might even be the best to just send one eventual candidate. But it might be probably give more flexibility to go from 6 to 3 to eliminate lesser caliber candidates. But the symbolism of allowing all parties to participate in the choice of a parliamentary budget officer in an impartial way. And the PBO has to be impartial. And when it's the government who appoints the PBO, we're not always sure because the appointments are not always impartial, unfortunately. In some places, it's not so much of a problem. But as a PBO, that's unconditional. That person must be impartial, must be competent. That person pronounces statements on the future of our country. With everything that happens in budgets, we need to have an opinion which comes outside of our bubbles because we're all partisans here. But when the PBO raises an alarm over something, we have to pay attention. We can't take it lightly. And if we have a partisan appointment, we have a risk that during the entirety of the mandate of a PBO, that they wouldn't raise issues, potential problems with the budget, and Canadians wouldn't have access to transparency. And I think that here it's important to be sure. If you're telling me that we're going to appoint the interim PBO who does a good job, that would be good. He really proved beyond doubt that he deserves the position. And he was already in the system, so there are a lot of people in that office. He was number 2 in that office, and he did all the work necessary to deserve getting the position that was not given to him. Do you know why he wasn't appointed? We don't know. But if you chose to choose, well, we would choose to be able to participate in the appointment of the other. And I would say that the interim PBO should be a candidate on the future list because he deserves the job. So I hope you've understood my message clearly. We're doing well. If we want to do it, we have to do it well. We really have to find an impartial parliamentary budget officer, one who's truly impartial. It's not for me, it's for my children and my grandchildren. I have 7, almost 8, and I'd like them to be in a situation where they understand what's going. So it doesn't take a lot of years to escape budgets. Now there are rating firms that internationally that are starting to ask themselves questions about Canada. If we close our eyes and we just say everything's going fine, everything's good, that's not how things work in the financial sector. There are no Canadians that would be able to have a personal budget that's like the country's budget. You'll say it's not the same thing, but someone always has to pay, and it's a taxpayer who'll have to pay and have to pay locked. And these, my children who will be birthed in April, they have this debt, $35,000. So if the baby starts crying, well, they'll have a good reason to cry. So I don't know if you on the other side are interested in that, but this really concerns me. Ensure that we have a good process and a good PBO who's impartial. Thank you.
To Ms. Goudreau, and then that's the end of our speaking list. And of course, I jinxed us as soon as I said the heat was on. I think they turned the AC back on, but we have advised them. Madame Goudreau?
Oui, OK. Parce qu'à mon...
Yes, because my mic was on and I wasn't getting interpretation. But that's okay. So just adding something before we call the question. Maybe some people were not here at the time. None other than Mr. Jason Jake said himself that he hoped that there be an impartial process. So he wants to be have the possibility to do it, and if he's appointed, then it would be impartially.
It's very, very similar to the system that the Liberals, NDP, and PCs do in Ontario. We'll call the vote then if I have no one else on the speaker's list on the amendment. Oops. Oh.
OK, alors j'ai un remplaçant pour M. Gasparot, mais c'est M. Zuberi, je ne le vois pas. Je
I have someone to replace Mr. Galfaro. It's Mr. Duberry, and I don't see him. And I think it's a vote for. No. The microphones are down. So he said present. I'm present. Mr. Zuberi. Are you voting for or against? Against. Ms. Kelly.
Madame Rochefort?
No.
Madame Lapointe, vous avez pas de carte d'écoute, donc à contre, OK. Monsieur Duberry, Madame Lapointe, si vous pouvez trouver votre carte d'écoute, ça serait bien apprécié, s'il vous plaît. OK, Ms.
We appreciate it if you find your headset, Mr. Zuberi and Ms. Lapointe.
Monsieur Gourde?
Oui.
Madame Gaudreau?
Oui.
OK, yes pour 4, 4, et nays contre 4, 4.
All in favor of the amendment? Okay. So the amendment carries. We're back to the original motion. I'll start speaking list. Yep. Mrs. Block?
Yeah.
She's got her headset
Thank you, Chair. I guess there are a couple of things that I want to point out about the motion. And perhaps some of the things I'm going to point out would be a response to some of the concerns that were raised. If you read the motion, we are recommending that the Prime Minister's office and Privy Council office submit to the committee a short list of candidates. So that would be where the list comes from the Prime Minister's office and Privy Council. It is part, we are calling to be part of a consultation process that is already specified in the Parliament of Canada. So those are two things that I think need to be brought forward. We simply want to be a part of that consultation process. And as the chair pointed out, this is a process to gain consensus from all parties and is keeping with best practices, given that the province of Ontario has adopted it. And I would simply say this, that what we have asked is for the deliberations and the choice that may come out of any deliberations, and it has to be a unanimous choice, would then be reported by way of a report to the House. Thanks.
Great.
A point of order?
Sure.
I simply want to indicate that we had not completed our questioning of our guest today when we moved this particular motion, and there was an agenda that wasn't respected, and we moved forward with a motion. And so I would simply raise that with the chair and the vice chair for further discussion, because I think that
That's not a point of order, but thanks very much. I have no one else to speak on this, so we'll call the vote.
Monsieur Zuberi? OK, contre. Madame Khalid?
No.
Madame Rochefort?
No.
Madame Lapointe?
No.
Ms. Bloch?
Absolutely.
Ms. Jensen?
Yes.
Monsieur Gourde?
Oui.
Madame Gaudreau?
Oui?
Yes pour 4-4 and nays contre 4-4.
Yes.
Yes.
With that. As such, it passes. With that, unless there's anything else, we'll wish Ms. Khalid a happy birthday and hope she gets to the airport and to her family in time to celebrate. We are adjourned.